lowered it.
We're on.
Are we on TV tonight?
Mm-hmm.
Welcome, guys, to this is a USB work session to talk about a couple of upcoming projects, I believe, that Mr. Kennett wants to make you aware of. So can I get a roll call, please, Mr. Eddie?
Board Member Tony Abbott.
Here.
Board Member Justin Nobbert.
Sir.
Board Member Tommy Roulette.
Present.
Board Member Lenny Fryman.
Here.
Board Member Brett Bondurant is
He's
not
out.
present.
He's on vacation.
City Attorney Dale Weldon.
Here.
Utility
I just
Director
saw him
Billy
drive by.
Kennett.
Here.
And President Kelly Milan.
Here.
And myself.
I thought he said he wasn't gonna be here. Is that not true?
Did he?
That's what he said.
Brett? It's an identical truck. Literally just drove by.
I think that was a different meeting, but that's fine.
Don't say that. Hopefully nobody.
It was for a different meeting, Tom?
Well,
I think so. I thought so. Because he was in Florida, remember?
He's-
It was the,
Locked.
But he went somewhere again, I think.
Okay. All right, so I'll tell you what, Mr. Kennett, the floor is yours.
Okay, very good. Thank you, Mayor. So a little bit of background on this. We are working on our capital plan right now. We've identified two projects that need to be done. One of them is the water main on US 50. That's the big leak that we had that we were looking for and finally found. And we had $300,000 in our capital budget for that project, but after finding the leak and doing some more research, there's two problems on that project. The water line is about 11 foot deep because when it was originally installed, they backfilled over top of that for the US 50 expansions over the years. And so now it's 11 foot deep, which is not a good thing, you know, for water lines. The second thing is those lines are failing. And we thought it was just one section, but after doing some more research, we realized it's about double the size. So now that project, our budget was at $300,000, it's now at $600,000 for that. And this is in the area between the natural gas power plant and Skyline Chili is the section of area that we're talking about. So that's one project. We haven't started anything on these projects. They're still in concept mode right now. The second project is the lift station consolidation. This has to do with some of the issues that we've had with lift stations pumps, just the age of them and the failure that we had up at the Ludlow Hill Park with that lift station. So what we're trying to do, and this is Andy Lyons' concept of how can we get rid of some of these lift stations, which are just maintenance headaches. And what happens is with these lift stations, it's a sewer gas that just eats everything up in there. And so we've tried some different ways of getting that sewer gas down so it's not as corrosive, but it eats pipes, valves, you know, you name it in those pits, it's eating it. So Andy came up with a design concept of how can we eliminate some of these lift stations to reduce. We've rebuilt two of the lift station pumps. The controls are out of date and need to be updated, so there's just a ton of work that has to be done on these lift stations. So Andy came up with a concept, is there a better way to do business? And that's getting rid of 5 of the lift stations that we have and going to a gravity flow in those areas. It's a large project. I think it makes sense for sure, just because of the maintenance headaches and, you know, the sewer backup potentials. It helps out on that as well. But that's a big ticket item. It's $2.2 million that we've estimated for that. Now, both of these estimates are the estimates that Andy and I put together, the $600,000 for the water, the 2.2 mil for the lift station. So they're in our capital plan to do these projects. Part of what you have asked us to do is to try to help find incentive funds to pay for what we're doing. There is and that's a reason for this work session being called, because There is a SWIFT fund. It's through the Indiana Finance Authority, State Water Infrastructure something, SWIFT. And they have, come to find out, they have $50 million for this year and $50 million for next year. There's basically two big funds out of the Indiana Finance Authority. You have the SWIFT and OKRA. And OKRA is kind of it's funded throughout different times of the year. What has happened with this is so much of this money, $50 million, has went to the SWIFT fund that OKRA is not or incentivizing projects. Everything's being flowed through the SWIFT fund. So July 15th is the deadline. We've already done the pre-submittal for both of these projects. It's with everything being bundled now through SWIFT, it's extremely competitive. They've actually received more applications than what they anticipated. So it's very competitive. Part of the SWIFT is they want it as shovel-ready as you can. So there's a grading scale in our application as to, is it concept? Have you hired an engineer? Do you have a contractor on board? So, and they grade you through that process. So we sat down with Judy a month and a half ago, Judy McAdams, and we reviewed it and said, number one, will these projects qualify for the SWIFT funding? And she said, absolutely, it's right in the wheelhouse. And then number two, what's our best position that we can be in to try to obtain some of these funds? And she said before the OKRA was even canceled, she said, this is going to be competitive, but we know how to do this process. So we put our best foot forward. There's a good chance that we can obtain some of these incentive funds.
Is SERPC involved?
SERPC? I'm not sure who that is.
That's the people that Judy uses to submit the grants.
Yeah, so they have reviewed what we're doing.
Okay.
And then once we get our application together, they're gonna give it a final review
Got it.
before we do the submittal.
Good.
So that they are involved with this, and they're the ones that's keeping us informed of, all the things that are happening with this SWIFT fund.
Okay, good.
So there's two parts of the SWIFT fund. There's $50 million for this year, and then there'll be a phase 2 next year that the applications will be due July 15th next year as well. And so we've got these two projects teed up. We received an email that said that due to the number of applications, they're going to try to limit it to like $2.5 to $3 million incentive per municipality. That's kind of the game plan that they're going, which that's right where we're at with these. So Judy said to get your best foot forward where we're at with these projects right now, it would be best to send RFPs out, get proposals for engineering, and have an engineer on board so that when we check the box in the application, it can show that we have hired an engineer. So that's what this work session is all about. So when we had that meeting with Judy, we put together an RFP. We asked BF&S Engineering and Structure Point to bid on these. Both BF&S and Structure Point has done a lot of engineering work for LMU and for the city in the past. So two very reputable engineering firms. The RFP, the proposals were due 4 o'clock last Thursday. We did receive a bid from BF&S. We did not receive a bid from Structure Point. So Andy and I reviewed the proposal from BF&S. We're definitely comfortable with it. BF&S took the time to come down and meet with Andy and go out and look at these projects, and they have some design concepts in their proposal. And we're definitely okay with the bid that they put together. One of the other things that I did was you know, we usually try to keep engineering costs at about 10 to 15% of the total overall estimated project cost. And that's a rule of thumb. In a smaller project like the water main replacement, they had a range in there of 118 to 153,000 estimated engineering cost. Excuse me, that puts them at a range of 20 to 25% of the total estimated project cost. So that engineering cost is higher, but it's a smaller project, so you would expect that to be a little bit on the high side. If you look at the lift station consolidation, their proposal was for $236,000 to $287,000, and that puts them in the range of 11 to 13%, which is right on target for the 10 to 15% that we try to keep it. So our recommendations are to for the board to approve BF&S proposals for the US 50 water main replacement engineering project, and also the lift station consolidation engineering proposal.
I got a couple questions.
Okay.
You're saying that these are two projects you're gonna do with or without the funding?
Correct. Yeah,
Okay, well, have you thought, okay, it sounds like the water main is a necessity now.
right.
The other one is a luxury. I'm talking as far as,
Yeah.
it could wait. Have you thought about this? If you don't get this round of grant, number one, you're gonna know what you were deficient in after the grant, okay?
Right.
So then you can improve upon that. Have you thought about doing the $2.2 million project, maybe submitting again next July?
Next year, yeah. So that project is, it's earmarked for next year in the capital budget. And so if we're not successful in the approval, then we will apply for it again in
Got it.
next year's.
So you weren't gonna do the 2.2 one this year unless you get the grant?
Correct, yeah, and we won't even, so part of the funding is, the project itself doesn't have to be completed until 2026. So we have some time there for that. It's just getting the funds approved is what we're trying to do right now.
Okay, so what I'm asking though is if you approve these RFPs, is there a timeline on that? Okay, say you don't get the funding for the lift station consolidation project. And you're gonna wait till next year and apply again, okay?
Right.
Do you really want, will this company automatically get that bid?
So what we would do, if the board approves both engineering, we'll start the engineering on both these projects, because we know we want to do them. And so we'll go, it'll take some time to do the engineering on the lift station consolidation. You're probably looking at about 8 to 9 months of engineering time. There's surveying involved, there's right-of-way easements, there's a lot of preliminary work to do. But our thought process there would be to go ahead and do the engineering, and if we're not successful obtaining those incentives, we'll be shovel-ready when it comes to next year for the second phase of this. So we'll be even one step better as far as along in the process next year. If we're not successful this year, we will definitely apply next year, and it'll be a shovel-ready project.
I'm just thinking, you know, what's the ramifications as if, okay, if you're not gonna do the lift station consolidation till next year, this company isn't gonna raise their price?
Well, we'll start the engineering right away.
No, I know,
So-
but the 2.2 could go to 2.8.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
You know what I'm saying? I understand the engineering, that you're holding them to the engineering,
Right,
the
right.
soft costs.
Right,
but what about the project?
Yeah, so we won't know that until we get a lot of this design and really hone in on, you know, exactly what needs to be done.
So are you asking then, and maybe I'm confused, 'cause even we talked before this meeting, and maybe I didn't ask the right question, or phrase it right. So are you asking to, all you're doing is gonna do the engineering work for these projects? And then what, okay, and I guess my focus is on the large project. If it doesn't get funded this year in the grant process, and you try again next year, like I mentioned, I think before when we met, you know, most of the time when you do these, okay, yeah, you get an engineered estimate, you can approve the soft cost piece of it, but then you go out to bid for the project.
Yeah, we will still be doing that.
Oh, okay.
So you have to have the
I
design.
misunderstood you.
Yeah.
Okay.
So the idea behind these two proposals is to get the engineering design.
Engineering.
So
Got
that
it.
we can take it out for bids.
My-
Yeah, so this
okay,
is,
thanks.
right now, it's just kind of a design concept.
Yep.
This will actually be the design piece of it. Once they have that finished, then we'll send it
Okay.
out for bids. And that's the reason I was saying,
Yeah, I misunderstood.
if we
you.
don't get the funding this year, we'll be shovel ready next
Still do the
year.
engineering piece.
Yeah.
And that's gonna give us leverage to get the funding.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that's gonna give us,
Yeah.
you know, the check that box that says we're.
Yeah.
Yeah,
that
all your
much.
competitive grants like that are, and what they'll do though, is if you, say you get one, not the other, or you don't get any, they'll give you a scorecard back. and
Right.
Then you know what to improve
Yeah.
on.
Yeah.
Yeah. And one of the things that we've got to figure out, because we've applied for the full amount on these, for the incentive funds, part of the grading that they do is look at how much we're paying versus how much the incentive.
Matching
So we
contribution.
may have to, that's part of what Judy is working with us on, to make sure that our application is as competitive as it can be.
Right.
She knows how to do those ratios. There's all kinds of household, looking at revenue per household and
Yeah, it's
how to tie all
Cersei
this
does
stuff
all that.
together.
Yeah, that's why I asked if they were, I wanna make
So,
sure that.
It can be 100% funds, or you can do what's typically called matching funds, where it's some of our money that's paying for it. We will be more competitive if we show that we're paying for some of the project, and then we're not asking for the full.
And it's best if we do that up front, as far as, say, we're gonna be doing matching, or, I mean, does that give us more leverage up front if we're saying, hey, we're willing to match, or we're going to match?
Yeah, we'll say that we will match. So that's something that we still have to work out here in the next couple of days, of what that formula looks like as to how much we're gonna apply for. Right now, we've applied for the full amount, but we may back off that. What Judy tells us to do, to say, here's your best shot, you know, put your best foot forward right
When's
now.
the application deadline?
July 15th,
Oh,
which is Thursday.
Yes.
That's what was in his
Coming
email.
back.
Grady Gabbard Day.
Yeah.
And the reason we was not aware of the SWIFT funding, and as soon as we found out about it, we put the pre-submittals in and we started the process, and we got Judy involved right away because we knew we were gonna have to move pretty quickly.
Good deal.
So obviously, we're not ones to pass up free money, you know, if it's, but how, I mean, are we gonna know within the next couple of days what matching contribution that we're gonna need to know to put on our application? Or is that something that,
Yeah, that's it's part of the application and part of the grading process as to how much money will contribute versus the incentive funds that we're asking.
so how are we to make a decision today if we don't know what that ratio is?
Well, I don't think, I think your decision is sort of moot, because they're gonna do the project if they don't get any funds at all. So you're either gonna pay 2.2 million, or you're gonna pay some portion of that.
Right,
You know what I mean?
right.
But most of these grants, and maybe they got this, Billy, and maybe they just haven't got it to you yet or something, but on those competitive grants, they'll come out with a, okay, you could do a 30% match, you know, 30% of the funds you do, 70% comes from the grant program, or it could be a true matching, you know, 50-50.
Right.
So, and that's probably what, I guess, they're gonna
This is-
determine for you.
This is open, this is wide open, so
Really?
it's not structured like that, so you can apply for 100% of the funds, or you can do any combination.
Wow.
And that's part of the competitiveness of it, that, you know, if we're contributing money, that puts us in a better foothold. But Justin, to answer your question, we're not asking for you to approve the full 2.2 million or the full 600,000, just the engineering portion of it today.
Right.
And then, all of that
Makes
other
sense.
stuff will come later, you know, as far as the, you know, we'll have to, once the engineering's done, we'll put it out for bids, and then we'll bring to you a project scope, that, hopefully it'll be good enough that you will approve that part of it too. So today, we're just asking for the engineering portion of it.
I was looking through the BFS, you know, they had done some work for us in the past that, have you heard any feedback onto how that all worked out? I mean, I see the projects on George Street that they had engineered for us, through Mel Davis when he was the utility director. Do we have any pulse on, were we happy with that work that they had done? Was it easy to work with them? And second question is that, how important is it that we have to get another bid? And I know it's difficult to get bids because everybody's so busy right now.
Well, you want me to can I answer one of those
Yeah.
questions? I don't know anything about BFNS. I don't think they've done any work for us in a while, if I'm not mistaken. I don't know that.
Okay.
Billy may know that. On the one bid for a grant purpose to get an engineered estimate, that's you're able to do that under like professional services anyway. And it's just for the engineering piece anyway. That's why I was saying, I think, you know, as long as the project gets bid out, that's the big
Right.
piece of it.
So this is the full-on engineering for this project. So when they start engineering,
Sounds
we're
like
gonna know exactly what's gonna
Right.
be entailed in this, how far, because it's gonna
Yeah,
be.
and they'll have design documents that we use to send out to contractors,
Yep.
and
Got it.
contractors will bid it based on that scope.
Same specs and
Yeah.
all that stuff.
Yeah,
And these are, just to reiterate, these are projects that Mr. Lyons has identified over the years, specifically being up on the hill. I mean, we have all these pump stations, and I kind of wondered why we weren't gravity coming down the hill, right? You know, but with all the, you know, undulation in the land, you know, makes sense that we'd have lift stations, but, so, based on just kind of first look, with Mr. Lyons' history with the pump stations up on the hill, he feels that we could go to a full-on gravity system without any lift stations?
right. Well, there will still be lift stations up there, just not as many.
Okay.
And Tommy, you may be able to speak to that. I know there's
Whoever
five-
sent mine's got mine upside down.
Yeah.
Mine is too, but.
Yeah.
Can't read upside down?
No, I can lock it, but
No.
I had a question for the water line
Yeah.
before we got to.
So what I was talking about, you had reviewed Andy's design.
Yes, yes,
And
yes.
there's 5 lift stations up there and wanting to consolidate that. And I'm not that familiar with how many lift stations are up there. If there will still be more up there after we do the consolidation.
I'd have to.
Well,
flip that
for
up.
instance, you got a lift station in 3 Mile Ridge, you got a lift station up at the park.
Yeah.
Right,
So
yeah, that's
I
48.
do know one that.
And you have one at Bel Air. You have one, is there one on Elizabeth Drive too?
I think there's
The one
5
on
total
Elizabeth
up there.
is not included in this 5.
Okay.
What they talk about in here is we want to see if we can take Elizabeth down over the hill and tie it in down there.
And
So
you
it
got-
wouldn't
Makes
even
sense.
be tied into stuff up on the hill, since it sits right there. we
Be
should
tied
be
into
able-
the main line going down.
Yeah.
I got you.
So we got 48, we got Bel Air, we got Butler, we've got, there's Hardwood, and there's one more I'm missing.
3 Mile Ridge.
3 Mile Ridge. That would be the 5 that I think he's wanting to get rid of.
Yeah.
I would flip it around, but like I said, it's.
So what you're asking is for the ability to go
Did you learn
forward
yours?
on the engineering
Correct.
part of
Someone
it.
show me how to do
Correct.
that.
Yeah, just the engineering proposals that we have.
Okay, and that's fine, but what they have proposed on here is that water line is going from the wastewater treatment plant all the way to Tanner's. That's what I'm seeing on this proposed.
That's upside down.
And that one isn't. That's what I'm seeing. It says proposed water main, and when I read in there, and I just started reading this a little bit ago, it looks like it's from wastewater treatment plant to Tanner's Creek, unless I'm looking at that wrong. Unless they're showing that whole main, and that looks like what they're proposing to fix, in my opinion. Repair. Can you see that?
So I'm looking there.
I thought the piece they were gonna
Page 3 on the
was
first,
from
proposal.
Lightstone up to the strip mall by Skyline, correct?
That's what I thought.
Right.
Yeah,
I think that's the only repair.
yeah.
I think
think
what
they
they're,
highlighted the whole
what they're doing, Tommy, is just showing that whole main
Okay,
through
okay.
there.
All right.
So
So it's from 48 to, as the mayor stated, the strip mall, right by Skyline.
Yeah.
Okay. I just seen that and I'm like, okay, that's a longer run than what I was aware
And
of.
that's,
yeah, and I was just scanning through
Be
their,
pretty cheap for 600,000.
on page 3 of their proposal, they have a project approach. And that's probably what you're looking at.
Yeah.
Because it has that drawing.
Yes, it's exactly it right there.
But it doesn't specifically say the starting point and the
Okay,
stopping
I just
point
wonder-
of the design.
I did know
just-
something's,
I think what they're doing is just showing that section of line.
that's fine.
But Andy has rode through with them and you know, told them what sections of line that he wants replaced.
I guess the other thing, once the engineering is underway, we're probably gonna, I would think that we would anticipate exposing some other depreciated elements that, you know, are along the way, that may be beyond the scope of what we're thinking. I mean, the lift stations, that's fairly static.
All you have is lift stations and line, pipe.
Right, so that's static, but when
The
we
pipes
get
has
into
all been-
the water main, I mean, has everywhere else already been replaced
Oh.
that's not proposed on the water main?
Yeah, so we do have other sections of water main that's in the capital plan. We put together a 5-year capital plan. You haven't seen
No,
it yet,
usually you
but
gotta do this.
it's about to
Then you gotta
to
flip
be
it.
approved. So once you see that, you'll see that we have different sections. It just so happens, these were the top 2 projects that we wanted to do that we felt would qualify for the SWIFT funding.
Okay,
And so that's the reason we jumped on board here
move
to
forward on that, okay.
again, just try to capture as much of that money as we can.
So we don't really have to decide on how much we wanna contribute to this right now, is that what you're saying?
Right,
It's the
that's something
engineering.
Judy will help us with. So, and like Kelly said, we have it in our capital fund to fully fund these projects out of the LMU money. So anything we get out of this is better than,
Is a
you know,
plus,
what we're
yeah.
planning on right now. Now, the other thing about this, when we put together the 600,000 budget and the money for the lift consolidation, that was prices going up like they have, so. you
Well, that's
know,
what I mean. After they do the engineering, then they'll come back with an estimate to
Right.
do the project,
Right.
and then you send it out for bid. and
Yeah.
That way, yeah,
Yeah.
it may be 2.8.
Well, and we got
You
some
don't know.
time, hopefully it'll come back down, but you
Yeah.
just don't know.
True.
So, but you know me, I tell it the way it is, and we put together these budgets before the prices went sky high on
Yep.
all the materials, so.
No, I didn't, you know, almost anticipate that they had gone up, like everything else, but you never know, it might be pleasantly surprised.
Okay. So you're asking, you want to do these separately for engineering? You want to ask for funding on engineering separately, Billy?
I think it would make sense to do
Okay.
it that way, yes.
Okay, any questions about the water main project first? If not, I'll entertain a motion to approve the engineering cost from BP&S to start working on the water main project. And that range was between
BF&S.
BF&S?
Yeah.
Okay, and what was the range of engineering for the water main?
That was
Range.
118?
118 to 153?
Okay,
Yeah.
the range in that, for the engineering cost for the water main would be between 118,000 and 153,000. I would, phrase it a different way. I would say you put a not to exceed number
Yeah,
on it.
that's a good point, Mayor. Good point.
Yeah, so, I mean, and do we feel comfortable with, I know you said smaller projects are usually higher percentage for engineering costs. I mean, that's obviously 25% of the project cost is just engineering. Is that, I mean, do you feel comfortable with that?
Well, here, don't forget this, that 600,000 could very well be $1 million. So then we don't want to do percentage.
Right, right.
I mean, so that number will be even more in line, if that makes sense. Does that make
Yep.
sense?
Yeah,
Yep.
I mean,
If indeed the prices they stay up.
Right.
I mean, but who knows?
Well,
right?
so, how do we get an honest bid?
Well, you'll be in on it.
Well, no, I understand that. I'm not saying they're just gonna, we're in a public recorded meeting and, we say, we're not to exceed. Not to exceed 153. It was like, how our bid came back at 152,973.
No, their bid's already here, but,
It's already
this is
here.
Oh,
already.
we
here.
have their bid.
That's
Yeah.
the 118 to 153.
Yeah, we did an RFP and this is their
Yeah,
proposal.
that is, that for the engineering.
So you went out for requests for proposals, I'm following you.
Right, no, I understand that. So,
What you guys can do is say, hey, we don't want that number to exceed, you could say 140,000 if you want.
Yeah,
What Justin's saying though is that because we only got one
Yeah.
response, we don't know if this is a fair or good cost for this type of engineering.
I mean, if I.
It is what it is
I
right
tell you
now.
I'm gonna build your
Yeah.
house and it's gonna cost you between, $200,000 and $300,000.
Yeah,
I mean,
It's gonna cost $300,000.
that's why you guys are gonna put a not to exceed number in it, and whatever that not to exceed number is what they would have to agree to.
but then are we limiting the scope of what they're actually
No.
able to do?
No, it's still, they're gonna still have to scope out the entire project for the engineering costs that you guys approve.
So why would we
I
not just
correct?
not to exceed $118,000 then? I mean,
And that's up to you.
But if we do that, then they can say they don't wanna do it.
yeah,
Yeah.
That's sort of,
yeah.
Yeah, I mean, we don't want that
That's the way
either. I mean, I'm not trying to cheat them out of anything either, and, make it a less comprehensive project by just, that
Right.
range factor is kind of a,
And it'll be itemized. You'll get an itemized contract and itemized billing. that-
Usually the way these work, though, guys, and correct me if I'm wrong, Billy, but is you have a pretty decent estimate of the entire project, right? And then it's a percentage.
And I
And
know
that's
I
what the
got
engineering costs are.
The bid packets to you late, but in the second to last page in the bid packet, they do have it spread out as far as how they did their budget. So, like for the water,
Yeah, I seen that. Oh, shoot. Yep, yep, yep.
they have public process, the budget's 5 to 10,000. Design development, 15 to 20,000.
Yep.
Surveying, 15,000 to 20,000.
That's where they're getting.
Utility coordination, 5 to 8.
Yep.
Final design, 75 to 90. The thing that I was trying to say about the projects is it takes just about as much to do the engineering on a $600,000 project as it does a larger project like lift consolidation. If you look at the lift consolidation pricing, it's basically the same line items.
It's not four
maybe
times as much.
And
like-
about the same
yeah.
amount of price.
Right.
For each one, so.
Reading mine is upside down.
That's a reason on a smaller project, that design percentage, you would expect it to be less than that.
So that's why I said, since they put a range in on the
Yep.
engineering, if I was you guys, I would put a not to exceed price at somewhere in between that range. Unless, and then it's, they have to, it'd be up to them, because they're putting out those, 15 to 20, well, 5 to 10, well,
Right.
they're gonna have to,
Yeah,
What's
I
their
hadn't
P's and
seen that.
Q's?
I hadn't had a chance to get through that since we just got these.
Right,
So,
nor did I.
Yeah. Yeah, I knew the timing on this was just gonna be quick because,
But you got to the 15th.
the RFPs and then, everything. So Normally, I definitely try to give you guys more time on this, but, you know, just the timing of this and be able to get the SWIFT application. We had to give the engineering enough time to be able to come down and see the project, be able to put together a good proposal, and at the same time, try to fit everything in, you know, to meet the SWIFT application deadline.
Well, 135 is right in the middle, dead center of that, so,
You feel good with 135?
yep, I'd move that we could move forward on the engineering up, not to exceed $135,000.
So the motion on the floor then, Justin, your motion is to not, on the water main project,
Project.
is not to exceed $135,000 in engineering costs.
Is that on one of them, or?
That's
is that
Just on the water main.
Just on the water.
Just on the water main. All those in or I got a motion, right?
He's got a
Justin?
motion, I'll second that.
Second
Mayor.
that, Tommy? All those in favor?
Aye.
Then aye.
Yeah.
Opposed? Motion carries 4-0. Okay, the next motion would be to approve the engineering costs for the lift station consolidation project. The range on that is, Mr. Kennett?
It is 236,000 to 287,000.
I'll entertain a motion that we go no more than 250,000.
Okay, I got a motion on the floor.
Engineering for the lift stations.
I got a motion on the floor to approve engineering costs not to exceed $250,000 for the lift station consolidation project from BF&S.
Right.
Do I have a second?
Now, this proposal that they got on here, that doesn't mean it's gonna actually go, it wouldn't go to 287, but it's gonna start at 236, and we don't know where it's gonna finish.
That's
Not gonna
why you
exceed
guys are
250.
putting a not to
Yeah.
Or
exceed
not to
number.
exceed that?
Not
Okay.
to exceed the 250.
All right. That's 11 to 13%.
I think that's what it comes out to be. Is that?
I didn't do it in my head, Lenny.
is that
Pretty
what they
close on
figured
that.
it?
Yeah,
Okay,
yeah, it's
Pretty
11,
close.
13% of the total project cost.
okay.
I'll second.
Tony, you second that? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
Thank you very
Are
much.
we authorizing Billy to sign these contracts on board's behalf?
You guys okay with that?
Yes.
Yeah.
Utility director to sign the contracts on, okay.
Sure.
We need a motion, or we're just good with it?
No, I think, well, let's go ahead and get a motion to give Billy the authority to sign these two contracts. The first one not to exceed $135,000 on the water main, and not to exceed $250,000 on the consolidation.
Lift station.
So moved.
So move, second?
Second it.
Second, Tommy. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. You'll let the BF&S know that, what the numbers are?
Yes.
Okay.
So then they'll come back and tell us if we're there or we're not, right?
Do we always sign or not sign?
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, and then they'll have to revise it and then send it back to you, Billy, the engineering piece, and then you'll have to sign off on it.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Anything else for the USB?
I got a question. I know we're gonna have a meeting here soon. Where are we at with the metering?
So, I put it on the agenda
Okay.
for, this month's USB meeting. The recommendation I'm gonna make, I've reviewed, several different proposals, and the recommendation is gonna go with the IMPA tankless solution.
Okay.
And I've got all the numbers, and I've got a scenario just like I did with this, but I will definitely give you guys more time to look it over.
Well,
than
they'll
I
have it
did with
Wednesday.
this one. Huh?
It'll be in their packets, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It'll be Wednesday.
So that you can review everything and the analysis we did and the bids and the proposals that we looked at, and
Good deal.
it's all spelled out in there. And what has caused that to bump up is Flaherty is about 6 months ahead of schedule, and they said we need 150 meters by the end of July, and you know, I didn't want to order 150 of the old meters, so then we had to make a decision, okay, how are we going to go with this? Because you can't mix and match, you know, a census meter with a tantalus meter. And so that's what's pushed that decision forward as well. We were going there anyhow, it's
Right.
just making us get there a little bit quicker. Kind of like this engineering, it's quicker than what we wanted, but, you know, when the opportunities approach you gotta go get it, so.
When will we need to know and discuss our contribution toward, you know, as far as, and this is, you already have it budgeted in for the project, but as regarding our contribution toward that grant? I mean, that seems like it's gonna probably come sooner than later.
Yeah, so it has to be done before we do the
Okay,
application on
that's-
Thursday. So
okay,
that's
that's-
something that's got to be done here in the next couple of
Yeah.
days.
You
And
just-
we're working closely with Judy and her people to figure out where we think we need to be
Yeah.
with that.
If you wouldn't mind keeping us up to date on that, just in the loop. would
Yeah,
love it.
absolutely.
Drop me an email.
Yeah. The other thing that's coming up is we did an RFP for the water meters. And so the bids are due at 4 o'clock today on that. And so we'll have an analysis ready for you on that. That's on the board agenda to approve the water meter vendor as well. So full steam ahead, we're rolling. Getting all the ducks in a row.
Got enough rain, we've had enough rain to get ducks.
We haven't had to worry about watering our lawns.
No, you haven't, had you?
But it sure grows.
All right, anything else, guys, with the USB? Not entertain a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Second?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Thanks, guys.
Yeah, thank you.
Good work.
Look, him's older than you right there.
Hey, guys, I gave you